Oh my gosh. Oh, it's bad today. Oh, blimey. Chundersvilles. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, I will stop chundering all over the live stream. Had a bit of a false start for those of you who didn't realise. Things didn't work out quite the way I was expecting. I was doing a speed test and of course OBS decided I was going to start. So, this is clearing the throat and making sure all the things are doing what they're supposed to be doing, because of course they don't always do what you want to do. It's technology. It's like it's got a mind of its own. Anyway, I need to get into this. For those of you who thought that you had missed the live stream, Richard, yes, you did not. You did not miss it, Richard. So, Richard Young, come back, don't leave. Mason Knight, yeah, the funny face, I totally understand. Hopefully, you're still here. Brent, you're quite right. It hasn't actually started. I think I just made a bit of a boo-boo, technical issues, things like that. And Brandon says false start, 5-yard penalty. Yes, I did take a penalty. Sorry about that, everybody. Mason Knight's having a good old laugh. Joe's here. Good evening. How's it going? It's a good afternoon for me. Yes, that's right. Technical difficulties, but you've got no sound. Can you hear nothing? You should be able to hear things. If you can't hear things, you let me know. Technical difficulties. Let me know, Mason Knight. If you can't hear anything, I can't proceed. Otherwise, so if you're here right now on the live chat, tell me whether you can hear everything or you can see what's going on. If there's no screen, okay, you should be able to see a mouse trap with mouses trapped. And the words teamwork, you should be able to hear me. If you can't hear me, let me know. Plug in my mic. Oh, my mic should be plugged in. I sure thought it was plugged in. My mic is plugged in. I'm sure that it should be working. I will test my sound again. I'll plug in my... Sounds okay. A boot face tells me sounds okay. I can hear you and see dead mice. That's the way... Right, okay, so everything's working fine. Okay, good lord. Bit of a problem there. I do apologise for the mess up. So let's get past all of this nonsense, because Fred's done enough messing around. And I'm going to say, look, you will find the start time down in the description later on when YouTube publishes this video. Okay, it will be down there so you can get past all of my bollocks, okay, and my sound check and my technical issues and my ranting and raving. Okay, so it will be there. Now, for those of you who haven't been part of my live streams before, normally what I do is I present everything first, and then I open it up for questions and answers. And that's what I'm going to do today. Now, how long will this live stream last? I'm aiming for 20 minutes to 30 minutes to sort of cover the core stuff. And then if you're in the live chat, you can ask me questions. Now, if I get it done in that time frame, I don't know, because I will be using miniatures and maps, and therefore it gets more complicated. I've got the whiteboard, it's all out here. So I'm going to have a drink of water. We're going to start. And hopefully this is what you were hoping for. Okay, let us go. Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. And as it happens, we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons 5e. We're not talking about teamwork. That's just my idea of having a bit of fun. So if you see that image on there, okay, that's about mice, teamwork, make sure you get the cheese, that sort of thing. We're talking about the core rules. That's the core rules for Dungeons and Dragons 5e. What the heck are they? What do they mean? And how do they work? In other words, show me, Fred, show me how they work. Now, for those of you who saw my thumbnail and were thinking, what is that all about? There's a manticore involved today. I'm sorry, there's a manticore involved. There will be a manticore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain essentially what I'm going to cover. I'm going to tell you where to find the information you will need. I'm going to then explain each of the different parts of the components of the mechanics for Dungeons and Dragons, and then I'm going to show you with dice and maps and miniatures how to actually do these things, what these core mechanics actually look like when you have to start rolling dice and doing maths. So let's get it done, shall we? So this video covers the basics of Dungeons & Dragons 5e core mechanical rules, and they can be found in the Player's Handbook for Dungeons & Dragons 5e, or you can also find them in the free PDF that's online that has the core rules. You can download that from the Wizards of the Coast official website. They have it available to anybody, doesn't matter who you are, and I believe they do have it available in a few different languages now, not just English, which is kind of cool. So what am I covering today? I'm going to be covering, first off, ability checks, because it's the most important thing, and that is on page 174 of the Player's Handbook. I'm also going to cover skill checks, which is on page 174 of the Player's Handbook as well. I'm going to cover saving throws, doing or performing a saving throw, which is on page 179 of the Player's Handbook, and I'm also going to cover attack rolls, making an attack roll, and that's on pages 193, so that's 193 right through to pages 194 and maybe a little bit of 195, because it's Dungeons and Dragons and it's very heavily based around things to do with combat. That's just sort of the nature of the beast. Okay, so let's have a quick talk about the sorts of things that we need to discuss. So what the heck is an ability check? So the ability check is a test of a character's or a monster's effort to overcome a challenge or some sort of threat. Usually it's a challenge, okay? It's a barrier that they have to achieve, or often it fills in all the gaps. It is the most important type of mechanic in the game. And it's very, very simple to do, okay? It's essentially your ability modifier plus a d20 roll. That's how you figure it out. So whatever your ability modifier is, for whatever ability it might be strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, or charisma, and then you add your d20 roll, okay? I'm going to show you how to do this, don't worry. The skill check. Now the skill check is a test of a specific aspect of the character's or monster's abilities. So it's more around being trained usually, okay? There might actually be some sort of special training that has taken place that makes it easier for you to overcome a threat or a challenge of some kind. So that's the skill check. So it's kind of like an ability check, but usually it's a bit more specific, and there's a few more, there's a little bit more information tied to it. Now, how do you perform that? You take your skill check modifier or your skill modifier, and you're going to add a d20 roll. That's how you do it. And then it's going to be compared against what's called a difficulty class or DC. Difficulty class is usually determined by the Dungeon Master, 5 being very easy, 10 being easy, 15 being moderate, 20 being hard, then you got 25, which is very hard, and 30 is like nearly impossible, okay? It might still be possible, but it's pretty difficult to do. It's near impossible. Okay, what about the saving throw? The saving throw represents an automatic and forced attempt to resist a threat. It is not something that the player's character, as you the player, you don't use your character and you don't have a choice about doing this. It just happens, okay? It's automatic, it's forced, and it's usually to resist some sort of threat or danger in the game of Dungeons & Dragons. And that is performed by taking your saving throw modifier and adding a d20 roll. You can see there's a pattern coming here, right? Add a modifier, then a d20 roll. Now the last one is the attack roll. The attack roll determines if a melee or close quarter combat attack or a ranged weapon or spell attack strikes a character or monster, and this usually will reduce hit points. It doesn't always, but usually with an attack roll it's going to reduce hit points. Okay, so that is the basics around sort of doing attack rolls and saving throws. Now your attack roll is always going to be your attack modifier plus a d20 roll. Okay, so everything is a modifier plus a d20 roll. Those are the basics for the core rules of Dungeons & Dragons. Okay, now let's have an example. I thought today we would bring out something a little bit more interesting. I thought we would play around with some monsters, and the Manticore was the one I decided would be suitable. But we're not going to use the Manticore just yet, so Bye-bye, Manticore. He's coming back, though. Don't get worried. He's coming back. So our first example, let's start with the ability check. Now, I'm going to select a Constitution ability check to survive without food or water for 3 or 4 days. So we're on the King's Road, or we're just venturing across the wilderness. This could be any road, okay? It could be just a dirt road that nobody's ever really sort of explored. It's way out in the wops, and our party have been journeying for 3 or 4 days. They've run out of food, they've run out of water, and they're at a point where they're really sort of starving and being dehydrated. And as a dungeon master, we can ask them to make an ability check, because there really isn't a skill that's related to this. What I want to do is make them perform a Constitution ability check to survive without food or water. Now, I'm going to just select, for this purpose, I'm going to use the wizard, okay? I'm not going to do it for all of the characters, just one. Now, all of these characters are represented as the pre-generated character sheets you will find in the Dungeons & Dragons 5e starter set. Those pre-generated characters at level 1, I'm using the level 1 characters, so it's nice and simple. Okay, I'm using that particular modifier. So the ability modifier for the wizard for making a Constitution ability check is +2. And I'm going to add a 20-sided dice roll. So I'll take my 20-sided dice, I roll it, I got a 17. I add my +2 for my Constitution ability check. Okay, Constitution ability check +2, 17 comes to a grand total. I believe that is a 2 plus 17, 19. So we get 19. Oh, does it look like a 19? There we go. More like a 19 now. That is our Constitution ability check. Now, our DC, the Dungeon Master will have set a DC to be successful. I set the DC at 10. If you get equal to or greater than with your check, then you are successful. Okay? So I had to get 10 or more, which I did. If I got less, I would fail. Now, if I had failed, I would gain a level of exhaustion. That's my penalty for failing that ability check. If you succeed, you do not wind up with a exhaustion level. Okay, so it's only a matter of time, and I might require this check every half day or every day. It doesn't really matter. It's really up to you as a dungeon master how you want to do that. I'm not going to give you sort of any predetermined rules around that. But as a player, that's what you would do. When the dungeon master says, I want a Constitution ability check, that's what you would do. Okay, so now that I've covered that one, let's deal with something else, like a skill check, because there's lots and lots of different skills. Now, I am selecting skills and ability checks that are normally something that all the party would have to do. For those of you who are wondering, why am I selecting these particular checks? I'm doing them because in this particular situation, our whole party would have to perform them. And I think that's a good thing. So I'm going to select what's called a stealth skill check. So stealth, I'll make sure I get it spelt right. Stealth. There we go, stealth. Now the stealth modifier for our wizard, why are we doing this? Our dungeon master is asking us to do this because I want you to make a stealth check because you have decided, the party might say, look, we're traveling in dangerous locations. There could be deadly monsters everywhere. We want to move silently and as quietly as possible. So we're going to move from rock to rock and bush to bush and try to produce as little sound as possible so that we don't wind up wandering into some sort of dangerous monster or creature. Okay, so that's why I'm asking for a stealth check. I'm only going to perform it for the wizard, but everybody would have to do this. Now the stealth modifier for our wizard is, in fact, just happens to be a +2. So 2, that's the stealth modifier. Okay, for our skill, I roll a 20-sided dice. I roll a 10. So I get 10. And I'm going to go, right, that equals 12. Okay, 2 plus 10 is 12. And now I take that number and the dungeon master compares it with the DC or difficulty class. And in this case, I set the difficulty class at 11. Okay, so I am successful. If I had failed, then some sort of horrible monster would have heard them or seen them coming or moving through this area. Okay, they didn't. Okay, they don't stumble into something bad. So this is a success, because remember, the DC is 11 that I needed to get. I needed to get equal to or greater than to be successful, and in this case, it's worked out all right. Now, often when you're doing something like this, you might find yourself dealing with what's called a contest. And if I'm going to compare stealth against something like the passive perception of a monster, then it changes things. Now I have to make sure I get greater than. Okay, if I'm dealing with our Manticore who is flying around in this area, who might pick up our players' characters and therefore be able to come and attack them, that means instead of the 11 being a DC, it's now a contest. So 11, in this case for a contest, rather than being a straight DC, is a contest. I now have to get greater than. I can't just get equal to, okay, less than or equal to. For the passive perception on our Manticore would mean the Manticore would notice them moving around or hear them or something like that, or they'll spot the tracks they leave behind. But I have to get greater than. They have been successful, or at least the wizard has, so Manticore doesn't notice them, doesn't see them, doesn't hear them, and doesn't smell them. So smell can also come into play, not just being seen. Okay, so there's two different aspects to that, and skill checks a little bit more complicated than an ability check. You can do something similar with the ability check. Your Dungeon Master might say, no, in this case it has to be greater than. And that means you're probably dealing with a contest rather than a straight DC. Okay, all right, so we've covered that. That is our stealth check. Next, let's get really funky, right? Let's start moving into our attack roll. Now, there's a reason why I'm doing the attack roll rather than the saving throw. It just makes it easier for me. So, for whatever reason, say the rest of the group roll poorly and the Manticore flies up. Okay, it's about 60 feet away and we're going to make some attacks. So, what I want to do is show you how that works. We can make ranged attacks. It's not close enough to make a melee or close quarter combat attack. So we're going to make attack rolls to try and hit the flying Manticore that's appeared in the sky. Okay. Now, there is other things like initiative rolls and so forth, but I'm not worrying about that. An initiative roll is just a type of ability check. Okay. Same sort of thing as the constitution check. Okay. All right. So let's make an attack roll. Let's start off with our fighter. He's got a bow because they can shoot them, right? So our longbow. And the modifier for this particular character is a 7. And I need to roll a 20-sided dice, so I will do that. I rolled a 3. Oh, 3. It comes to a total of 10. So 7 plus 3 is 10. Unfortunately, the armor class of our Manticore is a 14. Now I have to get equal to or greater than to hit the armor class of a creature or a character. In this case, the arrow will fly wide. I needed to get 14, so it misses, unfortunately. Now, if I were to get higher, so I'll do it again. So I roll the dice again. I roll a 14 this time. So 14 plus 7, 21. So 21 is equal to or greater than the armor class of our Manticore, which only has a 14. So the arrow strikes it, and then we do damage. Now, when it comes to rolling damage, you'll find it's all sort of figured out for you. In this case, a longbow does a 1d8 plus the dexterity modifier, which is a plus 3 in this case. So I would do 8 plus 3, which is a total of 11 hit points of piercing damage. Okay, so that's how that works. That's our attack roll with the longbow. What if now we are within 60 feet, the wizard's within 60 feet, it's flying up in the air. We could use a spell, okay, and make a ranged spell attack with our wizard. I'm going to use Ray of Frost. Now, Ray of Frost does damage, and it will also slow the creature down if I manage to hit my target. Okay, all right, Ray of Frost. Okay, so here we go. So we make our attack roll. I need it's a 5 for our attack roll with our spell. And I roll a 20-sided dice, so I do that now. I rolled a 2. So 2 plus 7 is 7. 2 plus 5 is 7. not the other way around, not 2 plus whatever. Okay, so I miss because it's less than, it's got to be equal to or greater than the armor class of the Manticore. So I miss. Okay, so we don't do any damage. Now if I do it again, I'll do it one more time, hopefully get a high enough number, get a 13. 13 plus 5 is 18. So 18 is equal to or greater than the armor class of the Manticore, which has a 14, so it would strike the target, and then we do damage. It's also going to be slowed by 10 feet when it moves. Okay, so grab a 8-sided dice for this and just roll that. I don't add anything to this particular spell. There's no modifier that I add. So I rolled a 1, so I do 1 cold damage to our Manticore with our Ray of Frost, which is a ranged spell attack. There are also close quarter or melee spell attacks as well, but I'm not going to demonstrate one today. Alright, so now that we've covered that, let's start dealing with something like a close quarter attack. Our Manticore flies in close and lands here. And I'm not going to worry about making an attack with the Manticore. I want to just show you how to make an attack with your character, because this is about the players today, not the Dungeon Masters so much. Right, this particular character here, okay, has got a great axe. So we're going to use a great axe for our attack. And we're going to make a melee great axe attack against the Manticore. So great axe. Just like that. And the attack modifier for our fighter here, who's got the great axe, is a 5. And we're going to add our 20-sided dice roll. So roll that. I rolled an 11. So 11 plus 5 gives us a grand total of 16. So 16 is equal to or greater than the arm class of the Manticore. We hit our target. We can do damage now. So grab your 12-sided dice. That's right, you get to use a 12-sided dice with a great axe, and you add 3 because the strength modifier for this character is a 3. Okay, so plus 3 to this. So I rolled a 6. 6 plus 3 is 9. So 9 slashing with the great axe. Okay, so we've hit the target. We've done some damage. So there's all of our attack rolls. That was fun, wasn't it? I had a great time. All right, let's do the last one. Last example for core mechanics. Let's have a look at something like a dexterity saving throw, because what I know is that the wizard has a spell called Burning Hands, and I want to use Burning Hands to mess up the Manticore. So I'm going to have our wizard move 1, 5, 10, 15, and that's good enough. I don't need to get into melee. And I'm going to use what's called Burning Hands. Burning Hands has a 15-foot cone. So that means that I can go 5 squares this way and about 5 squares. I can angle it so I don't hit the players. Okay, that's totally acceptable. So 15 squares this way, 15 squares this way, and a cone. And instead of making an attack roll for this particular spell, Burning Hands with our wizard, I'm going to use a dexterity saving throw. Now the dexterity saving throw is not made by the player in this case. If you're casting the spell, somebody else has to make the dexterity saving throw. The Manticore or Dungeon Master is going to do that. Okay, so Burning Hands. There we go, Burning Hands. And this does fire damage. Oh, does it look like a Burning Hands? Yep, a little bit wiggly. I'm sort of on my side. Sorry about that. Okay, so this is how it works. The wizard has a DC or difficulty class for any spell that involves some sort of saving throw. And this particular character has a 13. Okay, this is based off their proficiency and things like their spellcasting modifier. I'm not going to go into the mechanics of how to do that. I'm just going to show you how to do it. Okay, so the DC is 13. Our Manticore is making a dexterity saving throw. It has a +3 for its dexterity saving throw. So 3. And our monster must roll a 20-sided dice. This is the Dungeon Master. And I rolled an 11. Okay, 3 plus 11 equals 14. Now, what we're aiming to do with a dexterity saving throw is we must get equal to or greater than to be successful. So I needed to get a 13. So I am definitely greater than, okay, equal to or greater than. I definitely made it. So it's successful in making it save. Now the problem is with something like Burning Hands is even if you are successful, you still take damage. Okay, if you fail, you would take full damage. Now, the full damage on Burning Hands is 3 6-sided dice. Kind of nice, isn't it? 3 6-sided dice. Yes, you heard me right. 3 6-sided dice. Now, I know what you're saying, Fred. Is there anything else added to that in terms of damage? Well, if you have a look on page 220, it has Burning Hands. And you'll notice when it looks at the calculation, it takes 3d6 fire damage on a failed save and half as much damage on a successful. So no, you do not add anything to those dice that you roll. I know somebody's going to ask me, so I'm dealing with it now. So roll your 3 dice. And I rolled a 1. I got a 2 and a 3. So that means I get a grand total of 1, 3, 6. 6 fire damage, okay, if it failed, but it did not fail, okay? The Manticore did not fail, so it doesn't take 6 damage. It takes half that. You don't roll half the dice, you just take half whatever the full damage on the dice was. So I got 6, so I halve that, and the Manticore takes 3 points of damage. That's how a saving throw works. The Manticore doesn't get to choose whether it makes a dexterity saving throw or not. It just does it automatically. That's how the game is set out. I know a lot of people have asked me, can you choose to fail a saving throw? And no, it's automatic. Okay, it's built into your body. It just happens. It's taking the metagaming aspect out of you being a player playing your character. Okay, so we have covered all of the basics in terms of the core rules of Dungeons and Dragons. Now, I know a lot of you are going to say, but Fred, there's a whole lot of other core mechanics and it's around combat, and I'm not going to cover those because that would take so much longer. The core mechanics are ability checks, skill checks, okay, saving throws, and making attack rolls. That's it. There's nothing really else. So, hopefully you found this video helpful and useful in some way. If you did, please share and like the video. If you haven't subscribed and you like this sort of thing, I often have videos like this. I will do them live. Some are already pre-recorded. So consider subscribing to my channel. Hit the bell button to be notified when I go live and when I publish new videos. Now, if you want to support me so I keep doing this and don't disappear into the ether, then you did so by watching this video. I have hundreds more videos for players and dungeon masters, and I do show you how to do things, okay? I do get the dice out, I do get the miniatures and the maps out. So have a look at those. That helps me. I don't do Patreon, but I do have affiliate links down in the description where you can buy stuff online from Amazon and the book depository. I get a small commission, and that helps me buying gear and making sure I keep doing this sort of thing. Now, if you have questions in the live chat, this is your opportunity. Ask your questions. I will answer any questions you have. Have you got any feedback? Did you like what I've just done today? Did that work for you? Okay, so this is your opportunity. If you're not part of the live chat, use the comment section. That's what it's there for. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. I'm not gone. But holy Toledo, we are rocking it today. Okay, I'm bringing the map back because I feel like I'm going to be having to work through a lot of material. So it's time to have a look at the live chat and the comments because by gum, there are a lot of people here and they have asked a lot of questions. Okay, so hopefully that was useful to people. All right, let's have a look here. Steelguard 327, hello, he's here. Joe's here. Mason Knight, hopefully you got your sound back. I know I've plugged my mic in, so everybody else has indicated the sound's working fine. Bootface told me so, Matt's told me, and Steel Guards told me I can hear fine. Sound is good by Joe. I hear you, Fred Brandon, excellent. Can hear and see Cloud64. Thank you, Cloud64, for letting me know. That's awesome. Here. No, I hear. I understand. It's all right. I totally understand. You don't need to freak out. It's good. It's good. Hi, Darren. How's it going? Hey, folks. How's everybody doing? Well, hopefully everybody's doing well. I'm having a good day. I had a good week. I really did. The individual rights can hear me and see Dead Mice. Yes, I thought Dead Mice was a good lead into something like this. Hi, Brent. How's it going? Wizard033. Howdy. Yes, how's it going? Mason Knight. Must be me. I can't hear Fred. Hello, anybody. Anyway, yeah, okay, all right. So you maybe if you check your sound on your machine, everybody else is getting it, so that should be working. Wizard, and you all too, Darren. Okay, so all right, we'll just get past all the... So for those of you who haven't figured it out, I'm a small channel, but I do have groupies, and gosh, oh blimey, do I love my groupies, because they hang out with me in my live chats all the time, and I have a whole bunch of them here today, which is awesome. And they will help you. If you have questions, you ask them, because they will definitely help, even if I don't get to your question, which I'm bound to. Okay, what do you got here, Brent? Does anybody else sometimes listen to Fred's videos to fall asleep? All right, am I soothing? Am I boring? Maybe that's because I'm boring. Oh no, listening in the background makes me sleepy. Oh dear, that's funny, Brent. I love it. Is it the accent? You know, everybody has an accent. Do you think maybe it's a soothing voice? I feel like my voice is about to break any moment. Darren, bye Manticore. Yeah, Manticore came back, don't worry. Brent, he's the Kiwi Bob Ross. Really? I've seen a couple of his videos of Bob Ross. I can't quite see it. Is that the New Zealand slang? I don't know. I know I have slang. Everybody does, right? Wizard, little squishy lives right here. Look, these were all level 1 characters. I was not going to have the Manticore unload on them, because it wasn't really about the Dungeon Master. It was more about players rather than the Dungeon Master. Not necessary. Somebody looks unhappy though. Let's have a look here. Zigzag, Twitch TV. I have a Con 3 as a fighter. A Constitution of 3 as a fighter who wants to eventually multi-class as a barbarian. Oh my gosh. My GM sucks and forced us to assign our roles chronologically, and I didn't speak up because I didn't know any better at session 0. Oh mate. Zigzags Twitch TV. I feel for you. Your character is going to have a really hard time. My suggestion to you is, Zigzags Twitch TV, is just let the character die. Just do something in a blaze of glory and let it be done, because a Constitution of 3 on your fighter and barbarian is pretty rough. You know, I'm pretty brutal with my experienced players, not new players, but with experienced players. I'm pretty brutal with the encounters that I will run. I give them easy, medium, hard, and lethal, and they have to learn when to run. But yes, that's going to be very, very difficult to deal with. Hi Jesse, how's it going? How long does this go? Well, I went for just under about half an hour, but you are welcome to ask your questions, Jesse. That's why I'm here. Okay, Richard Young. So I did a one-shot for my 7-year-old last night, and he named his fighter Elric Slasher, and he earned it. He used the Lost Mine of Phandelvar folk hero fighter, and I used the level 1 cleric, and I died instantly, and he soloed them on 1 hit point. Man, that's pretty impressive. It does happen though. At low level, you know, if your dice rolls are low and his are good, it can happen. He had what? 2 hobgoblins, 3 goblins, 1 wolf, and a grick to deal with. Ooh, nicely done. Your son is doing well, or is it just really good luck? He used 2 potions and a second wind. Well, good, smart boy. Well done. He's doing great. Okay, what else here? It was his first time playing, laugh out loud. Well, it looks like it went well. What's that, Richard? Cornered the enemy, blocked him off with fire and barrels, and just used his bow to school them all. Well done. So he made sure he was blocked off so they couldn't attack him, which is smart. When you're playing the game, use cover. You can move and then shoot and then move again. It's not such a good idea if you're in melee, because then you're going to get attacks of opportunity on you. But with ranged, move, shoot, and then move back into cover. Always a smart move. So well done. Your son's really got the hang of it fast, hasn't he? Darren, sounds like a good time, Richard. You just made a lifelong fan of the game right there. Yeah, exactly. He's going to be back. Richard, my first time playing in like 25-ish years. Well, Richard, you're doing fine. And even if you have a bad session, who cares? They don't last forever. Okay, things always get better. Did the entire adventure on the spot and rolled to see what enemies showed up and had what. Sorry, I missed that. Showed up on the spot and see what enemy showed up and had no clue what was going to happen. Well, so you used a lot of random encounters. My gosh. Seventh Sun Nitro. Hopefully I got it right. Hello, Richard. I love your videos. Thank you for what you do, and I watch all of your videos. My gosh, if you watch, I do so many videos. You don't have to watch them all. Just watch the ones that interest you. My channel is an eclectic, right? I cover everything. So you don't have to watch everything. Just watch the ones you like. What else? I'm just going to go Seventh Sun Nitro. I'm just going to say Nitro, okay? It's just easier for me. You are my favorite YouTuber, Richard. Oh, you've been watching Richard stuff. I didn't realize that. I'll have to go and check out. He's laughing. I don't know why he's confused. Hi, Matt. How's it going? Matt Nerdy. Thanks, Fred. Always enjoy the live examples. Visuals always help. Yes, and that's why I think a lot of the people get frustrated sometimes because they don't see that visual. I've had a lot of people comment, look, I need people to show me how it's done. So hence, I have done it. I don't do vids. This isn't the me talking man. Right, yeah, okay. All right, so it must be a different Richard. Apparently Nitro's your biggest fan, Richard. Ah, dear. But he hasn't actually made a video, so I'm not sure. You must be watching somebody else's stuff. There's a bit of confusion going on. Mason Knight, sounds good. It was my bad Bluetooth. Your Bluetooth was playing up. Okay, well, hopefully you sorted out your sound. All right, Seth, Nitro has got it figured out. Okay, good. Okay, Space Monster 505. Hello, new to D&D. Welcome, Space Monster 505. While I'm here, ask your questions. I am still here. So if you need some help or you want to ask some questions, and honestly, guys, I will answer questions for players or Dungeon Masters. This is why I'm here, okay? So fire away if you need to. Nitro, Richard is a fraud. No, he's not a fraud. You just got confused. That's what it is. Space Monster 505, happy little Kiwis. Well, I have to say that sometimes Kiwis aren't so happy. We haven't been happy very recently, but yeah, the Kiwi is changing. The Kiwi is changing. We're not the same fun-loving people we used to be, but hopefully you are getting what you need from me. Mason Knight, I love the accent. Fred seems like a nice guy, like his humour. Well, I've been told I have very brittle and dry humour. And if you like the humour, excellent, because it's not going away. Okay, Space Monster 505. How do you feel about the DM having a character in the game? Oh my gosh. Okay, all right, I might not win a few friends with this. Okay, I'm going to be honest with you, Space Monster 505. I really dislike it. I really dislike it because the DM, the Dungeon Master, gets to play so many different things. They get to play all the monsters, and to also play a character just really F's me off. It really annoys me. I'm so not happy with that when that happens. Now, there's a couple of reasons why people do it. Often a Dungeon Master will play a character because nobody at the table who's playing a character will have the balls to Dungeon Master, and they are never able to find a group where they can play as a character rather than wind up just being the Dungeon Master. So I understand when Dungeon Masters do this. I understand that frustration. That is actually the fault of the group, not the Dungeon Master so much in that situation, when the Dungeon Master never gets to play as a character. That's the fault of the group. Everybody at the table is responsible for being a Dungeon Master and playing as a character. That is my personal view. If you disagree with that, that's fine, but I'm not going to change my view. That's how I see it. The best groups are the people who do both. And you don't have to Dungeon Master well. You just have to do it, okay? Now, for Dungeon Masters who have the opportunity to actually play as a character, but they still run a character in their game when they're dungeon mastering, that's a different kettle of fish, because you're now talking about a dungeon master who is probably quite selfish, and you'll probably see lots of magic items going onto their character and rather than the other players at the table. I've seen dungeon masters who always seem to survive battles or combats, and they are playing a character. This is the dungeon master, essentially, who plays a character so they can be the best at the table and sort of rub it in so that all the other players feel stink. And I think that's a sucky way to play and run as a dungeon master. They have all the best gear. They will have built their character so it's the best character there. They will have made sure to single out characters that they want to put down. They will probably not put a lot of attacks onto their character. I hate it. I dislike it so much. Okay, I've had my rant. I've answered your question, and we're moving on. Okay, Bootface, found your channel just minutes before the stream. Oh, good. It's great to see practical examples of gameplay to help me get back into the game since 2nd edition. All right. Well, hey, Bootface, welcome back. I'm really glad you're here. I hope I can help as you are integrating yourself back into a new rule system. But it's like riding a bicycle. You will pick it up. It's not going to be a big problem. Darren P. Space Monster 505. That can get a bit dicey if not handled well. Yes, Darren, you are right, which is why I dislike it so much. Mason Knight. Richard, my son's friend is my DM 15 years after being their DM in 2nd edition. Okay, wanted me to check out 5e. Hot the crew back together. I got the crew back together. Fun. Good luck. Yes. Get back together. Play. We want Dungeons and Dragons to be mainstream. Well, no. I want it to be Dungeons and Dragons to be mainstream. I honestly want Dungeons and Dragons to be the game you can go into any toy store or bookstore where they sell board games and you can pick up the Dungeons and Dragons starter set. I want it mainstream. Okay, that's why I do this sort of thing. Joe, hey Fred, I'm new here. Love the video. Great for beginners like me. Joe, you're not really much of it. You've been hanging around with me for a while, but I know you are still sort of beginnerish. Cujo is one of my groupies, if you guys don't know, and I love chatting with Joe. He sends me some very, very interesting pictures. All right, Orbit Survey. I DM for my 10-year-old son. Oh man, I love it when the mums and the dads are dungeon mastering for their kids and playing at the table. It's even better when the parents wind up playing a character and their kids run as a dungeon master. I've heard that happening. It's so good. And a few of his friends over the last year. So you've been dungeon mastering for your son and his friends. Cool. Your videos have helped me so much. Cheers from Canada. You are welcome, Orbit Survey. Keep coming back. Okay, keep coming back. Space Monster. Sorry, Bob Ross reference. It's all right. I got it. I understand. It's not an offensive thing. You don't have to be sorry. Richard Young. I used the cleric just because I was trying to show him how to play last night, but I died first round, so I didn't really play as a group member. Yeah, but that's different, Richard. You're playing with one character. There's one. Your son is only playing one character. There's nobody else at the table, right? Therefore, it's always a good idea to add in another dungeon master controlling an NPC. You're running an NPC to make sure you can keep him alive. That's a good thing. I would suggest, Richard, to also give your son an animal companion who doesn't actually have to be role-played that much, that they can use to help in combat, just to beef up the numbers or members in the party. Give them like a panther or a bear or something like that. And you can level it up just like a player character as he levels up. Every time your son levels up, you increase the level of his animal companion. You could give him just like a henchman or henchwoman or hench person or hench creature, but I would give him a creature, some sort of animal or creature that can travel along with him. Just don't pick something that's too powerful. You don't want the animal companion or creature that comes along with your son who's playing this fighter to be overshadowed. That would be bad. Okay, but try that out. That'll work well. And also gives him something else to do, because the chances are he sounds like he's pretty smart. Space Monster 505. We had a group of 7. I was one of 2 that are new. Yep. A group of 7 is quite a big group. And often when I've run Dungeons and Dragons in a public forum, there's usually at least a couple of people who are new to the game. Almost always. You'll get there. Yep. Darren. I had a player drop out halfway and they no longer had a healer. So I took the cleric as a semi-PC, mostly NPC, kept him out of the spotlight. Yes, well, Darren, that's right. That's a good idea. It depends if your group is... I know a lot of people assume that you must have a healer in the group for Dungeons & Dragons 5e, but you do not have to have a healer in the group. That's what healing potions are for. A potion of healing in anybody's hands can allow them to give them hit points back, or they can pour it down somebody else's throat to get them back on their feet, which is essentially the same thing that a cleric would do. So this is why I discourage people running, particularly Dungeon Masters, running an NPC when the party doesn't have a healer, just because it means that you've taken a lot of the control away from them. You're now sort of and you're doing a lot of extra work. As a Dungeon Master playing a character and the monsters, there's a lot of extra work involved. But if just give them more money. Drop more money so they can buy more potions of healing. Which you shouldn't, try not to put a restriction on how many they can buy. I know that sort of breaks the immersion of the world, but, this is how it is. Look, you don't find enough in this town, you could go to the next town and buy some more if you want to. Let them do that. And just, it can be done in a minute. It took 30 seconds to travel from there to there. They picked up their potions and away they go. They're back to exploring and doing their dungeon delve. Okay, Richard, what do you got here? So kind of like a multi-class ranger, since the folk hero has bow specialization. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Multi-classing is a really good idea if you have a small group. If you have a small group, get them to multi-class. If you have a person who's playing solo, then multi-class is good. Don't start them at level 1 if they're on their own. Start them at level 2. Just because they'll need those extra levels just to make things a little bit easier. Those are all good strategies for dealing with that situation. Okay, Mason Knight. I don't have a lot of questions from players, but I will answer whatever questions come my way. Mason Knight. I don't get caught up in the do's and don'ts as a DM. Good. Mason Knight, you have to take everything that I say and everybody else says with a grain of salt. It's all about the players having fun. All of the players, including everyone. Yeah, absolutely. You take the information you can use, you ditch the stuff you can't, and it's absolutely perfectly all right for you to make mistakes. Somebody might have been correct, and you might have been wrong about what you're doing, but I found that the best way for me as a Dungeon Master is to learn from my mistakes. The only problem is when I do the same thing over and over again, and I never learn from what I've done. That's essentially how I see it. So Mason Knight, good advice. Don't get caught up in the do's and don'ts as a DM. Try everything at least once or twice before you ditch it. Okay, Joe, what do you got here? I'm starting my vacation today. Oh, nice. Going to be playing through the rest of Phandelver and the next 8 days off. Oh my gosh. Joe, blimey. 8 days. I'm not going to be able to get to Wave Echo Cave quick enough for you. Hopefully I've given you enough videos on the Lost Mine of Phandelver. I have a huge playlist. Okay, there's a playlist for the Lost Mine of Phandelver Dungeon Master Guide. So if you need that information and you're not aware of it, I know Joe knows about it, but if you're not aware of it, go and check it out. Okay, there's lots of information there. Sector Black. Do you have any tips on creating Fog of War on a physical tabletop battle mat or map. Right now I'm just thinking I'm going to have to draw the map by hand as my players uncover it. Yes, I do. Sector Black, I do have a suggestion. And I'm going to demonstrate just a little bit too. I can't demonstrate quite the way I would like to, but I can demonstrate fog of war to a certain degree. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this out of the way, and I'm going to move the dice out of the way because I don't need them there, and I'm going to get rid of the monster. I'm going to move our PCs over here because they are still adventuring. Hopefully you can see, have I put them off the map? Let's just check that I haven't done that. And I'll give you a demonstration of fog of war. Okay, so here's our heroes. And you've got fog of war, so you can't see everything. So what you do is you get some pieces of paper and you stick them down with blue tack. You get some blue tack, some sticky something, and you stick it down and you cover up all the stuff they can't see. They shouldn't be able to see this area here, right? So you can cover that up. And you just draw out the things they would be able to see. So that's one way of doing your fog of war. The other way is to take your map, draw it out on a piece of paper, and cut it up into squares indicating sort of where you are traveling. Now I can't demonstrate it on my camera right now, but I've seen it done. You just draw out your map and you cut it into pieces based on where you think line of sight's going to be. So if it's rooms, each room would be its own square, and then you just slot them together, and you can blue tag them down onto your table, or if you've got something that will stop it from moving around, then you can just lay it onto a piece of rubber. Often you'll find paper and cardboard doesn't move around on rubber, so that's a good way of doing it, and you just cut it up into sections. So that's one way of dealing with that problem, particularly that fog of war where you really want things to be able to be not seen. So fog of war. I will do a video on the topic at some point. I just haven't had time to do it right now. Hopefully that covered your question with regard to physically using fog of war on a tabletop map or mat. Okay. What do we got here? Richard Young. I used a bunch of fancy rocks to outline the caves and blue ones for water. Yep, you can do that. You can use anything you like. Like the kind for house plants. Yep, why not? Use anything you can get hold of. Greg. Hi Greg, how's it going? I've recently started playing D&D. I've played 5 games at my local Dungeons & Dragons Adventurers League. Yep, I know what you're talking about. But we've never used the percentile dice. Could you give an example of when the percentile dice is used? Yes, I can. Yep, absolutely. We'll do it right now. I'm going to just look in the player's handbook. So you want the player's handbook. And if you look in the player's handbook in the equipment area, you'll find there is a table or chart for percentile. Okay, I'm going to give you 2. It is on page 160 and page 161. And it has the example there is for a trinket. Now when you're building your character, you can have a trinket. And I suggest if you're building your character, you make sure you get a trinket because it's kind of cool. And you get your dice. So this is the percentile dice. This is the 10s. And this is the ones. And what we do is we look at our table and we roll our dice. And we're going to determine what it is. So that means we're looking at the 70 and the 7. So 70 and 7, that means it's 77 on the percentile dice. Okay, so we look on our chart for the trinket. 77 is a sheet of parchment upon which is drawn a complex mechanical contraption. Now these are great for dungeon masters. If you tell your dungeon master what your trinket is, they can tie this into some sort of adventure. And I really recommend giving that a go. Okay, it can work out super good for you. So try that out. Okay, so that's how the percentile dice works. Now, what about if when do you get a 1 and when do you get a 100? Okay, so here, if you see the 0, okay, and you see that. Okay, so what does that mean? This is the question a lot of people get really confused around is, okay, if that is, what does that represent? That doesn't make sense, right? How do I figure that one out? Okay, zeros and zeros. Is that 0 percentile or is that 100? Well, there's no such thing as a 0 on the percentile dice. You can't get 0. So when you get 2 zeros and 1 0 on the 10-sided dice, that represents 100. 100 on the trinket table is a metal urn containing the ashes of a hero. Okay, so that's how that works. Now, if I roll it again, now for those of you who play sorcerers, there's also another percentile chart in the book. The player's handbook has wild magic. Yes, that's right. I've been playing a wild magic sorcerer paladin, and it has a percentile dice chart on page 104. And this is Wild Magic Surge. And so every time I have to roll on my Wild Magic Surge table, I roll the dice that looks like this, that's got 10 sides, and it goes 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and the 10-sided dice. They're just single numbers. Roll those. Okay, I rolled a 7 and a 3. Okay, so that's 70, that's 3, that's 73. Okay, look on our chart, 73 for Wild Magic Surge is a random creature within 60 feet of you becomes poisoned for 1d4 hours. So that might be, in this case, our Manticore. And now, it might be, but it's randomly determined. It could also be the player's characters, so then I have to decide who's it going to be. We'll go 6, it's this one, and then the others are going to be whatever, okay? And you grab, say, like a 6-sided dice and randomly determine what it is. And unfortunately, the Manticore, I rolled the 6, so the Manticore winds up poisoned. Okay, so that's how it works. That's how the percentile dice works. Hopefully that answered your question and it's crystal clear, okay? Greg, don't forget that trinket table. Everybody should be getting themselves a trinket. Tiles or battle mat. You can do any one. You can use Dungeons and Dragons tiles and fit them together. You can make your own tiles. You can use a battle mat. But if you've got a battle mat that's you've bought, don't cut it up. Make up your own battle mat and cut it into squares. Okay, so find yourself like a big piece of cardboard or something like that. Wombat. Yell yay. Okay. Yay! I did. I yelled yay. Is that good enough? Okay. All right. Sector black. What do we got here? Thanks. I'll give those methods a try. Cool. Yep. Give them a go. All right. So I don't see too many more questions. I'm just going to check to make sure that the live chat is up to date. I think I've covered everything that everybody wanted to talk about. I am about to lose my voice. I need to go and have some food. So what is going to happen tomorrow? Okay, for those of you who don't know what happens tomorrow, tomorrow is my day off. I will be probably making or continuing to make my air elemental. So usually what I do is I hang out, we talk about whatever you like. Usually it's about Dungeons and Dragons. Sometimes it's movies, sometimes it's other stuff, but usually it's Dungeons and Dragons while I try to make something. So that's what's going to happen tomorrow because it's my day off. Okay, so have a really good time. What's that, Greg? If I've already created a character without a trinket, is it too late? Just have a talk to your dungeon master, Greg. Okay, it's not really going to be too late. I think you'll find it's going to be fine. Hi, Anthony. How's it going? Yeah, so just go check out with the dungeon master. It shouldn't be a problem. Okay, all right. So yes, have a good night. Have a good morning. Have a good afternoon. Look after yourself. Look after your family. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Well, maybe you should do something that I don't do. But yeah, look after your family. Look after yourself. Have a good day, good night, good morning. And I will see you tomorrow if you are ready to have another chat. By the way, thank you to everybody who showed up. It was a fantastic turnout.